Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my director spotlight on Ryuhei Kitamura, who directed his first feature-length film in 2000 and has continued making movies up to the present day. Now unfortunately, some of his more recent titles have been pretty terrible, and I seriously question whether or not he can return to consistently producing fun movies. In any case, I think it's time to celebrate his earlier accomplishments with a top 5 list of my favorite Ryuhei Kitamura movies. So let's get to the list. My thoughts on each film will be fairly brief, primarily because this is a list video, not a review. And remember, titles for all the movies I discuss will be listed in the description box below. I'm not providing availability information in this playlist because most of these films I saw a while back, and availability has changed over time. Although, the list tonight will be focused on more contemporary films, which you're probably going to be able to find. My usual method for checking availability is Google, so be sure to seek out any films that seem interesting to you. Number 5, Godzilla Final Wars, 2004. This is an action film. To no one's surprise, Godzilla must protect the world from a bunch of monsters. This movie has a lot of flaws, most of which I will not get into here, and the first time I saw it, I was not the biggest fan. However, over the years, I've come to enjoy it. The practical effects are pretty fantastic, actually, and the monsters look very cool. Some of the kaiju attacks are creative and fun to watch. A lot of action overall, even though a good chunk of it is related to the human conflicts, which means that the pacing is generally brisk. This has the feel of a Kitamura early 2000s film especially, only less controlled and even more insane. The music was composed by Nobuhiko Morino, who worked with the director on many of his earlier films, and it's also very reminiscent of his signature stuff from back in the day. It's meant to be cheesy, lighthearted fun, and it's successful in that regard. Pure, mindless action trash that's a little bit exhausting to watch, so just make sure you're in the mood for that before you watch it. Number 4, Aragami, 2003. This is an action film. All of these films tonight will be from Japan. A raging god of battle and a master samurai duke it out in a series of sword fights in a remote temple. This action film is the culmination of the director's duel between Kitamura and Yukihiko Tsutsumi, who directed 2LDK. And this director's duel demanded limited production and casting. Aragami is dominated by effective dialogue for the first 50 or so minutes, during which both characters are given some color. Then, when the fighting finally starts, it's pretty well executed. One of my favorite actors, Masaya Kato, has a significant role, and while I do enjoy Tsutsumi's film more, Aragami is a good piece of entertainment for sure. Number 3, Versus, 2000. This is an action horror comedy. There are 666 portals that connect this world to the other side. These are concealed from all human beings. Somewhere in Japan exists the 444th portal, the Forest of Resurrection. This over-the-top B movie has attained cult status for its high entertainment value in spite of limited production costs. Kitamura's directorial skills shine with a unique blend of camera styles and action beats. Although the zombie element transitions to something a bit different during the later half, it's no exaggeration to say that the opening hour has some of the most entertaining zombie kills of any movie in existence. The use of black comedy throughout the entirety of the film makes it a fun watch, and the perpetual forest environment does provide some atmospheric visuals. Some complain about the slower pacing at times, but this is good stuff, and the final duel is lengthy and highly satisfying. Number 2, Sky High, 2003, a fantasy genre bender that includes drama, action, thriller, and romance. A woman is murdered by a killer who steals hearts in an attempt to summon a great demon, while the victim's fiancé detective investigates. Cinematography and soundtrack are pretty excellent in this, and Kitamura creates a number of good moments, both action and dramatic, with a very likable cast, most of which are recognizable from his other films. This movie refuses to bend to genre conventions at times, and it provides an aura that shifts from all these different genres rather smoothly, actually. The fight's probably the most disappointing aspect, and will likely frustrate viewers who want more of a high-octane, exciting swordplay style, but the story is probably the best of Kitamura's entire career. It's pretty good stuff. Pacing is deliberate, but the characters and mythos building are what truly drive this one. And my number one favorite Kitamura film is, of course, Azumi from 2000, an action drama period film. This movie's pretty cool. A 17-year-old actress, Aya Ueto, plays one of the more invincible protagonists of recent memory. Set in 17th century Japan, Azumi is one of the band of assassins whose mission requires the elimination of 3 leaders bent on starting a war. The fight scenes are dominated by swordplay and stealth tactics and include a forced ambush as well as a lengthy nighttime stronghold raid. The antagonists are memorable, with the smartness of Inu Kanbei being supplemented with the agility of Saru and the over-the-top villain Bijomaru Mogami. Drama is surprisingly effective and totally underrated given this film's reputation, and the 142-minute runtime is completely justified. This film builds to an epic final fight sequence that seriously satisfies, and the musical score is also excellent. So those are my top 5 Ryuhei Kitamura films. I think Azumi's pretty fantastic all around, and I think Sky High is actually surprisingly great from a mythos building standpoint. Just the decision making that the characters need to make in that film I really like it a lot, even though the sword fights are pretty disappointing. But like I always say, I could definitely understand if people have some different films in their top 5, like even Midnight Meat Train for an American title, or even Alive for another Japanese title. It's kind of interesting. I still think it's crazy that my 2 favorite Kitamura films were both released in Japan in 2003, and that was a great year for him. And it's kind of sad to know, we kind of know now that his best directing days, I think, are far behind him. I can't see him directing another great film ever again, which is kind of sad. But we can still celebrate the prime of his career by revisiting his older stuff. So I hope this list can provide some recommendations for those of you who are unfamiliar with this director. And I was a huge fan of this guy back in the mid-2000s, so I ate up a lot of his stuff multiple times. And if you've seen some of his films already, tell me your personal favorites in the comments section below. And as always, we will see you next time.